All right, so community sports. The energy, the friendships, the thrill of the game, there's really nothing quite like it.
Totally.
But gotta be real. Sometimes even in those awesome environments, we encounter some, well, not so awesome realities. Like racism.
Yeah.
Picture this, okay? You're at a game, tensions are running high, maybe it's like the final seconds on the clock, and then, bam, out of nowhere, someone throws out a racist comment.
Oh, wow.
The air just goes thick.
Right.
So what happens next? Well, that scenario and how we handle it, that's exactly what we're diving into today.
I'm ready.
We're digging into excerpts from 3 documents that are used in anti-racism training for community sports.
Go.
Think of this as like your playbook. Whether you're a player, a coach, a parent cheering on the sidelines, or even just, a fan in the stands.
Right.
By the end of this deep dive, you're going to be equipped to navigate these situations head on. Okay, so our sources don't sugarcoat anything. They make it clear that racism doesn't take a timeout, even if the game does. And they lay out some key terms that we need to be comfortable with. So let's tackle those first, shall we?
Absolutely, yeah. Understanding the vocabulary is essential for having those meaningful conversations and taking effective action.
Exactly. It's like learning the plays before you step onto the field, right?
Right.
So one term our sources kept coming back to is active bystander. It's a big one.
It is.
What makes someone an active bystander, and how is that different from just, being there?
Yeah, that's such a crucial point. An active bystander, they aren't just a spectator. They're prepared and ready to step up when they witness racism. Imagine a teammate taking a hard foul. An active bystander isn't just going to stand there. They're going to be the first one to offer a hand up, to check on their teammate and maybe even call out the foul.
Okay, I like that. It's like you're not just watching the game. You're in the game, ready to make a play when you need to.
Exactly. And that leads us to another important term, ally. Being an ally is about consistently challenging racism, even when it's uncomfortable. It's about being that teammate who speaks up in the locker room when someone makes a racist joke, or who uses their platform to advocate for greater equity and inclusion in the sport.
It's that consistent action, that commitment to doing the work both on and off the field, right?
Absolutely. Now, one concept that's often harder to recognize but equally important is microaggressions.
Okay, microaggressions. Those can be tough to spot because they often fly under the radar. Can you give us an example of what that might look like in a sports context?
Sure. The source talks about how telling a black athlete that they're articulate or well-spoken can actually be a microaggression. On the surface, it seems like a compliment, but it implies that their eloquence is unexpected, reinforcing the stereotype that black people are not as intelligent or articulate as their white counterparts.
Wow, I never thought about it like that, but it makes total sense. Like those backhanded compliments that leave you feeling worse, even though they were framed as something positive.
Right.
Now, the source also dives into the difference between cultural safety and psychological safety. And I have to admit, I wasn't totally clear on how those played out in a team environment.
Good point. Imagine a team huddle, right?
Yeah.
In a culturally safe environment, everyone feels comfortable contributing their ideas and perspectives, regardless of their background or cultural differences. It's about respecting and valuing everyone's unique experiences.
Okay, so that's cultural safety. Everyone feels seen and heard for who they are.
Right.
What about psychological safety then? How does that fit in?
So psychological safety, that takes it a step further. It's about creating a space where everyone feels safe speaking up against racism or discrimination without fear of being ignored or ridiculed or penalized.
Okay.
It's like that same huddle, but now everyone knows they can call it a bad play or a missed opportunity, even if it means challenging someone in a position of authority.
That makes a ton of sense. It's like building that trust where everyone knows they can speak their mind without fear of being shut down or ostracized. So we've got the terms down.
Right.
But here's where things get really real. What do we actually do when we hear that racist comment? Back to that, that tense game scenario we were talking about. Our sources didn't hold back. They said those first 7 to 10 seconds after an incident are absolutely crucial.
They really are.
Yeah.
The source dealing with racism in community sport highlights how delay often allows the situation to escalate. And it's in those initial moments that we have the greatest opportunity to intervene effectively.
Okay, so no hesitation, but what's the play here? What's the first thing we do?
Well, the source uses a powerful analogy. It compares a racist incident to a physical injury on the field.
Okay.
We wouldn't hesitate to pause a game for a sprained ankle. Right.
Absolutely not. The game stops. Everyone's checking to make sure the player's okay. We might even have a medical professional come in.
Exactly. So why do we often hesitate when someone's been injured by racism? The impact can be just as real, just as damaging, and it deserves that same immediate attention.
That really reframes things. So practically speaking, what are the steps we can take in that moment? Remember, our listeners right there in the middle of this.
Right.
The clock is ticking.
First and foremost, de-escalate the situation and center the victim's well-being. Ask them what they need. Sometimes just having someone there to support them, to show them that they're not alone, can make a world of difference.
It's about making it clear that you see them, that you hear them, and that you're on their side.
Precisely. Now, officials,
Wow.
they also have a crucial role to play here. Even if they're like young referees, they have the authority to pause the game just like they would for any other serious incident.
Right.
And as bystanders, we can empower them to take action.
That's a good point, reminding the ref that this is serious. It's not just letting something go. It's like reminding them to call a foul when they see one. Now, the source also talks about these clarifying conversations. What does that actually mean? Is it like calling the person out right there in front of everyone?
Not quite. The source emphasizes that it's not about public shaming or forcing an apology.
Okay.
It's about encouraging reflection and understanding. They even provide some helpful questions we can use, like, what did you mean when you said that? Or, can you help me understand why you said that?
Those are interesting. I can see how those would be much more effective than just like yelling at someone or telling them they're wrong.
Exactly. It's about opening up a dialogue, creating a space for learning and growth, even amidst a tense situation. Of course, if at any point the situation feels unsafe, removing either the victim or the perpetrator from the field should be prioritized. Safety always comes first.
100%. So we've tackled the heat of the moment, but what about those trickier situations that might come up away from the game? Maybe you're hanging out with teammates or you overhear something at a family gathering. Situations that feel less public, maybe even more personal.
That's where our next source comes in. Reflect plus forward. Digital conversation cards.
Yeah.
These cards offer some really thought-provoking prompts for navigating those tougher conversations about racism, especially with people we're close to.
Now, this source gets it. They have a really important disclaimer right at the beginning, acknowledging that these conversations can be emotionally charged, even triggering for some people.
Absolutely.
Right.
It's crucial to approach these conversations with sensitivity and respect for everyone's experiences. So if someone needs to sit this one out or engage at their own pace, that's completely valid.
Absolutely. So let's say we're ready to dive into one of these cards. Card #2 asks, what would it take for you to call out a friend or family member for making a racist comment? And I'll admit, that's a tough one. What makes those conversations so challenging?
It is a tough one.
Yeah.
I think it's tricky because, these are the people we care about most.
Right.
It's one thing to call out a stranger, but bringing it up with a friend or family member, that hits different. And the source acknowledges that, It talks about how those conversations can bring up like fears of damaging relationships,
Right.
creating tension.
For sure.
Even like facing resistance or backlash, Plus, there's that added pressure of wanting to believe the best in the people we love, even when they mess up.
Right, totally.
Mm.
It's like that feeling of, wait, is this really happening? Do I really need to say something? But then, isn't saying nothing kind of its own problem?
That's the heart of it, right?
Mm-hmm.
And that's where those clarifying conversation strategies we talked about earlier can be really helpful,
Yeah.
even in these more personal settings. Instead of going straight into attack mode, try asking those open-ended questions that invite reflection.
Well, yeah.
Like, hey, when you said that, what did you mean? Or can you help me understand why you see it that way?
So it's about approaching it with curiosity rather than judgment.
Yeah,
Even though, those tough emotions might be swirling underneath.
exactly.
It's almost like you're putting on your coach hat. You're not there to yell from the sidelines. You're there to guide,
Yeah,
to help them see a different perspective.
that's a great analogy. It's about facilitating understanding and growth, recognizing that these conversations are a marathon, not a sprint.
Okay. So we've covered individual actions like being an active bystander,
Yeah.
having those courageous conversations.
Yeah.
But let's zoom out a bit. How do we make community sports as a whole truly anti-racist?
Right.
It feels like such a massive goal.
It is a big goal.
Where do we even begin?
Yeah, it starts with a shift in mindset. a collective commitment to creating a culture of inclusion and belonging.
Okay.
Remember those concepts of cultural and psychological safety we talked about earlier?
Yeah.
Those are paramount.
Right. So it's not just about saying, oh, we don't tolerate racism here.
Yeah.
It's about actively building an environment where everyone feels safe, respected, and empowered to call out racism when they see it without fear of retribution.
Exactly. And that takes us back to card #4 from our conversation card source.
Okay.
It challenges us to think critically about representation in sports.
Yeah, like who are the coaches, the team captains, the league officials? Do we see diversity in those leadership positions? Because, if a young athlete doesn't see anyone who looks like them in a position of authority,
Right.
it's going to be that much harder for them to believe they can get there too.
You're hitting on a crucial point. Representation matters, both on and off the field.
Yeah.
And this card goes even deeper, prompting us to consider the role of affirmative action in achieving equity.
Right.
It's a complex issue with valid arguments on both sides.
It is. It's one of those topics that can get heated quickly.
Right.
Some people, feel strongly that affirmative action gives an unfair advantage,
Right.
while others see it as a necessary tool to level the playing field that's been skewed for far too long.
And that's precisely why these conversations are so crucial. We need to be able to respectfully engage with different perspectives, to challenge our own assumptions, and to work together towards solutions that benefit everyone.
That's it.
Yeah.
So, as we wrap up this deep dive,
Yeah.
I hope our listeners feel, 1, more informed, but 2, more empowered.
I think so, yeah.
Because knowledge without action, it doesn't really get us anywhere.
Right.
So, whether you're heading out to the big game this weekend or just, having those conversations around the dinner table.
That matters.
Remember, you have a voice.
You do.
And you have a choice in how you use it.
You have a choice.
Thanks for joining us for this deep dive. We'll catch you next time.
Thanks, everyone.